Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast, and on this week's show we are going to be reviewing the Australian swimming trials for the World Championships this summer.
Yeah, the Australian trials are always a brilliant spectacle with some of the best swimmers on the planet racing on show. It's no secret that Australian swimmers perform well on home soil, and based on some of the times that we saw hit, it proved to be true again.
100% yes. So this is inherently, usually, a British swimming podcast. However, the British swimming champs and the team selection for our World Championship team happened a very long time ago. And over the next few weeks, teams like Australia and America will be confirming their teams. And we thought, as a podcast, let's cover them. Let's give everyone, mainly our British audience, a bit of knowledge for what's going on around the world. And like Dan said, there were some massive swims that happened out in Australia. Maybe, I don't know, me and Dan thought a few even faster swims were possible, but we'll get into that.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. We are going to go into it, but I was expecting a world record, maybe even two, to be perfectly honest with you. But I was happy with the times either way. They were quick. Some of them, they were fast.
Okay, the first thing I wanted to touch upon then on this podcast before we review the swimming is what went on outside of the pool. Now, this may be of interest to some people, it may not be for others, but the coverage that Swimming Australia did of this meet was second to none. The social impact of all of the clips that they put up of every race, of like previews of the day, of reviews of the day, of capturing parents of swimmers, like the Kai Taylor one was just incredible. And I actually think like the work that they put out is the gold standard and something that more swimming federations around the world should achieve to, more swimming meets. This is, me and Dan, if you've listened to us before, like short form content is the growth of any like sport right now. That is the viewing medium over the 90-minute TV shows. This is what people are consuming, and what the product that was put out was simply incredible.
Honestly, I was hooked by some of the stuff they were putting out. I know, like, we tried to do it for the British Championships, especially for the men's 200 freestyle, because, all 8 lanes were massive. But they did exactly the same for the women's 100 free. Obviously, that's their highlight event over there. The men's 100 fly was a big event for them too. And so they sold it. To me, they sold it brilliantly. And if I were in Australia, in Melbourne, I would have definitely got a ticket to go and watch that, because they did such a good job. They, to build up to all of these races was just amazing. And it hooked me. Like I said, it hooked me, and I was just kept watching everything they posted. And hopefully that's the kind of stuff that we want to be doing in the future, really.
Absolutely. Now, it isn't just that sort of coverage level that I really enjoyed. It's the way they end the meet. So unlike over here in British swimming, you sit around for 2 days and me and Dan try and guess the team. Is this where the selectors are going to go? Because the selection criteria in Britain is tough. Like the times that they put, leave it down to selectors. But when that meet is done, essentially you know who's going for Australia. So what they do is a big presentation at the end of a World Trials, which for me, like British swimming, if you're listening, this is how you keep fans in their seats until the meet is done. Because we had, I think it was the medal ceremony at British Champs of the 200 meters freestyle. That was the biggest medals, or the biggest race of the meet. There was no one there watching the medals being handed out because they're just not interested. Whereas if you did a big presentation of, this is your team for the Olympics next year, whatever, or this summer's Olympics, people would stick around and watch that. Like they just did everything right.
Yeah, I don't think outside of the pool we don't put a lot of emphasis on your medal presentations or the team selection or anything like that, which is a massive shame. I think it's a big thing that British swimming should be doing. Australian swimming do it all the time. The last race is done, and then within, minutes it seems, the squad is announced, and then you have all the swimmers get their green and yellow jerseys, I think is what they call it. And the cap, and it's a big deal, and they get given some sort of, plaque or something, whatever it is, but it's something to take home, some sort of memento, and we don't seem to do that. We ask the swimmers all the time, how did you find out? Oh, we got an email. Oh, that is just soul destroying. I'm like, oh, great, yeah, amazing. I'm sure it's amazing when you read it at first, like, oh, I have been selected, amazing. But Australia, they do it properly, Yeah, exactly.
Imagine being there with all of your teammates for the next World Champs, and suddenly there's a team bond already Because
and you've got friends and family in the crowd, and they're all cheering for the same thing because they're all representing Australia in the summer. I think it's a big thing that we're missing out, and hopefully, British Swimming are listening, and something we can do.
Oh, I'd love to,
because I think the summers would benefit off it because it becomes more of a team morale bonding type thing, and then all the parents are with each other as well. We're all supporting the same thing, so hopefully it changes because I think it's a must.
With the selection policies as they are, it's not going to happen. Let's be realistic, but hopefully Olympic year, you never know.
We can be hopeful, can't we?
We can. So we said in our intro then, it was a meet where we expected world records to fall. Let's clarify on that. Dan, what world records did we actually think could have gone at this meet?
I was actually relatively certain one was going to go. I thought the women's 200 backstroke, I thought Kaylee McKeown was going to get that. She wasn't far away, to be fair. She was, 0.5 off, something like that. She was actually closer to the 100, which I didn't think she would get. I think I wanted her to hit a world record, obviously. I thought she would potentially get the 200 and maybe the 100. I wasn't quite sure. It was kind of give or take. And I was thinking maybe Zach Stopperty-Cook could potentially get one because he swims well in Australia. It's a pretty well-known fact that Australians swim well on home soil. And I thought he would get a little bit closer than what he did. I think he was 2 seconds off in the end, which is quite big, actually. But I thought Kaylee would get into 200 backstroke, to be honest with you.
Well, I'll reveal a little bit behind the scenes there. Me and Dan were messaging at the start of this meet, and you were like, 2 back, 2 back, 2 back. And I was just like, do you know what? The 2 IM might go.
Oh,
given the swims that are going around the world, I thought Kaylee might pull something out because, if I remember correctly, the meet before, she had a really strong, was it 100 breaststroke or 200 breaststroke? She out of nowhere, suddenly she swam a really good breaststroke race, and just hang on, why is she swimming this race? She's never going to swim that individually. So I thought, 2IM might be on, but 2076 is still very, very good. Yes. And I'd expect her to be challenging the likes of Summer McIntosh this summer.
Possibly. I think Summer's a little bit too strong at the moment. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think... Have we seen Summer versus Kaylee before? I'm not so sure we have. I can't...
No.
At the top of my head, I can't think of it. So that'll be a very interesting showdown. Summer McIntosh has got some big head-to-heads going into this World Champs, doesn't she? Oh, it's going to be very exciting. I wasn't too sold on your 200 IM world record prediction, only because 206 from Hosu is ridiculously fast.
It is.
And if one person's going to get it, it'll be Summer McIntosh, I think. But she did a really good breaststroke, and she's not doing a 400 IM Kaylee anymore, probably because she's targeting the backstrokes more than the IMs, which is rightly so, obviously. Because she's got Reagan Smith to deal with, who is swimming very well also out in America. So, yeah.
Yeah, Reagan Smith needs to qualify. The last few years, she's not qualified for the backstroke races, which has been a bit of a stumbling block. But we'll get to that when US trials come around.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know the stunning thing for me about Kaylee McKeown? She's still only 21. It feels like she's been around for a very long time now. I think that might have just been the prolonged build-up going into Tokyo. But
maybe
she's getting this close to world records every time she swims in the pool. The next 5, 6, 7 years, she's gonna dominate backstroke in reality.
I've heard she wasn't anywhere near tapered for this meet either. Maybe 50%, 60%, something like that. And you think, well, if you're that close to the world records off the condition you are right now, we're looking at low 203, maybe even a 202 for the 200 backstroke. That would be mad. That'd be insane.
Really?
Well, I think who knows?
You can read a little bit too much into some swimmers not being tapered because some swimmers do swim better when they're not rested.
Yeah.
But yeah, this summer she's certainly the one to watch, and one of the swimmers of this meet, no doubt whatsoever.
Definitely. Yeah.
Another point then, no world records broken, but Australians know how to swim freestyle.
Yes. My God, do they know how to swim freestyle? Across the distances, male or female, they are just dominant. Where should we start? Should we start with the women because they are just out of this world at the moment? Let's start with Mollie O'Callaghan. She has to be up there with one of the swimmers of the meet. She's just awesome at the moment. She shows how strong she is at the back end of her races, both 100 and 200. She can turn fifth 6th, something like that, and then come back through and end up winning the race and being the world leading swimmer for the year so far. I mean, it's just incredible. The technique's amazing, and I think something that you pointed out as well, her underwaters, they have improved drastically. They're incredible right now.
Yeah, the end of that 200 meters freestyle, she went past Titmus underwater, which it kind of had, like, it had reminiscence of Phelps, what he does at the end of the 200 free. It was incredible. And those two are training partners. So you would have thought Titmus knew that O'Callaghan's underwaters are improving and this is coming, but you never really know if you hold something back until it gets to a race like this.
See, I think Titmus does know this, and I think she attacks these races quite hard at the start, actually.
Because she knows O'Callaghan's there.
Because she knows Mollie's going to come back at her, and so she tries to put as much distance between her and Mollie as possible, and then she just doesn't quite have it at the back end at the moment, because Mollie's just so strong at it. And again, Mollie O'Callaghan's only, 19? Something like that?
Yeah.
Ridiculously young, and I think she goes into the World Championships for the 100, maybe even a 200 as favourite now. She has to, surely. She's world leading at those two races. So I know there's big names like Siobhan Hawley, Sarah Sostrom, all those girls to come in, but she has to go in as favourite right now.
The 200, I get what you're saying. The 100 is going to be tough when you have some of the Americans racing in a few weeks' time. So, like, you could put that statement out now and then, like, in a few weeks' time, we're proven completely wrong.
We'll retract it quickly. Yeah. But she's beaten Titmus, she's beaten Emma McKeon. She's taking some big scalps in these victories, you know? It's impressive.
People could conceivably say that this meet now, beating Titmus and McKeon, is almost a showing that she is now the force of Australian swimming. Like, she is that name ahead of those two Olympic champions, which is perfectly plausible. But I would say, did last summer not prove that? Because when we were doing our end-of-year podcast, where we did International Swimmer of the Year, she was one of the 3 nominations we put forward because of how many medals she won at Commonwealth Games, how many medals she won at Worlds, the performances at Worlds in the 200 free. I know Titmus wasn't there.
No, I think that's what it is. I think because she's backed up what she did last year, it's now a bit like, oh, you are actually a big deal. You remember, like, Harry Kane, off topic here, come on, complete tangent.
Football.
Yeah. But you know, Harry Kane, when he got his, let's say, 30 goals that one season, you're just like, okay, maybe it was a bit of a fluke season. And then he did it again the next year, and then people realised, oh, actually, you are very good at what you do. I think it's kind of similar to what Mollie's going through. So, yes, she's backed it up. I guess she's got to do it again at World Championships, I suppose. But everyone should know how good she is, the calibre that she is, because she's just blown the doors off right now. It's quite incredible what she's doing. And she, like, a bit like your prediction with Kaylee McKeown, it could be the same with her on the freestyle fronts.
Yeah, should we talk about the 100 free as a whole then on the women's side? Because the depth of that event is, like, mind-blowing. And for Shayna Jack to go a 52.6 and come third and not to swim it at an individual in the World Champs this summer is madness. Like, that conceivably could be a podium swim in the summer.
Oh, I agree, definitely. Yeah,
she's not swimming it.
Anything to do with a 52 mid to low, you're in with a shout of a medal. And to be, it's not really hard done by. You just got 2 girls that are faster than you. That's just the way it is. It's kind of similar to our situation on the men's side on 200 free, I suppose. I mean, you've got Joe Litchfield came 6th. He could have probably won the 200 free at Aussie trials. It's insane.
We'll get
when you
to
think
that.
of it like that. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. I mean, I assume she's going to go and win gold as part of the 4x1 relay.
Does she swim the 50 as well now?
Shayna Jack will. Yeah, she won it. She went 24.2, so she would be going for that anyway. And a 24.2 is good going as well, mind you. I mean, that's a potential medal in itself. But yeah, unfortunate, but it's just the way it is, isn't it? Quite cutthroat over there. That's the problem when you've got such a depth in that event.
Is the 4x1 relay gone this summer? Should we just put money on it now?
In terms of the world record?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I think so. Yeah.
100%. Quite comfortably.
We won't retract that. We'll keep that in. I think that's gone. Yeah. I was trying to compare the splits for the world record and the top 4 swimmers from these trials, and yeah, I think they're going to get it, because I assume these girls are going to go slightly faster in the summer as well. So yeah, I think it's going to go.
So let's go to the men's side then, because it wasn't just the women who put on a freestyle masterclass. And I'm going to start with one of the standout names of the meet alongside Kaylee McKeown and Mollie O'Callaghan, Sam Short. Now, I'll be honest, didn't see this coming into the meet. Maybe he went slightly under the radar, and maybe undeservedly so, after he won 1500 at Commonwealth Games and beat Daniel Whiffen. That should have kind of proved top-class swimmer. But he went into this meet, and in the 400 freestyle, Elijah Winnington was, to me, comfortable favourite.
I agree, yeah.
Beat him. And with a quick time. It wasn't like Elijah Winnington had a bad day at the office. A 3:43 is a quick time this time of year.
It was world leading as of right now. That 400 free he was holding mid 28s as well, which is very good going. And a 3:43, that's medal. That's a podium right there, I think.
Actually, yeah, international stage, the 400 free, it's always gone slower. It's not been a fast one when it comes to a world final, has it? It's always one of those cat and mouse races where the time doesn't matter.
It's a bit like athletics. It's about winning rather than a time, I think. It's one of those races. But 3:43, he's in with a great shout of a medal, even potentially gold as of right now. But it's great that they're both racing each other, and they race each other again in the 800 as well, which I think was Sam Short's best race. A 7:40 this time of year. He's the fastest this year by 2 seconds because of that. That is a really good swim. And I think he might, well, if he goes that time again, I think he'll win gold in that event. I don't know what you think about that. The 7:40 is good. Really good.
I'm going to be honest with you now. Calling any distance freestyle event on the men's side in June, a month ahead of World Championships, is a gutsy call, because you've got the likes of Dan Whiffen, who is just improving leaps and leaps and bounds every time he gets in the water. You've got Wellbrook, who is swimming very well as well. We don't quite know what Bobby Fink's doing. We've said it over and over again. It's a golden generation of distance swimmers. So he's fastest in the world by 2 seconds, sure, but there's so many of them to pick out of a hat. You just don't know what's going to happen.
I think the 800 is a really good event for him, because he's got the sprinting side. Let's say he's got the strong pacing in the 400.
I didn't realise he had that, by the way.
No, nor did I. I thought he was better suited to longer distances, because we know what his engine's like, because obviously the Commonwealth Gold. But he does have this little bit of speed about him, and I think that's why he's crushed the 800 and the 400. So I think he's better suited to those events. Not that he can not do a good 1500. He went a 14:46, which is
very good,
really good going. And we were impressed with Dan Jervis did that, so we have to be impressed when Sam Short does it as well. So he is looking very good right now. He had a very solid meet.
World class meet, I'd say.
Definitely.
That was a proper good meet.
Yeah.
Then the star on the men's side, Kyle Chalmers, the 100 meters freestyle, wins in a 47.4. Expected that he wins. Was it expected he got pushed quite that close by Southam?
I thought Kyle would have gone 47 mid, which is kind of what he did. I didn't think Southam would go as fast as he did. A 47.7, I believe it was. 47.77 maybe. That's good. I did not expect. I thought he was a 200 meter swimmer. I didn't think he was coming down for the 100. I wonder if they're targeting the 4x1 on the men's side as well as the women's side, which may be a little bit of a thing to talk about later.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it now.
Oh, okay, we'll talk about it now, sure.
The men's field on that 100 freestyle, you had two going sub 48, Kyle and Flynn Southam, and then you had four more under 49, which kind of challenges the depth that we saw at British Champs. And the head-to-head on those two relays, I think, top four swimmers, someone did a head-to-head, and I think it's the Aussies right now come out on top by 0.02 of a second.
Yeah,
no,
it's the same time.
0.2 of a second, I think it was, which essentially in a relay is nothing. There's obviously the Americans still to come, and 4x1, I'd probably throw in the Italians as well when they put their team together. But I don't know, if anything, all of these times and seeing the Australians, that if anything, putting all of those Australian times together and how strong that final was, and seeing that the Brits are still only 0.2 away, gets me quite excited for British swimming this summer more than anything.
It does, especially when we've got such youngsters coming through as well, who can easily go faster, I think. your Jacob Whittles, your even Matt Richards, I think, can go a bit faster than what he did at trials as well. And these guys are still, 18, 19, 20, 21. Lewis Burrows can go faster. Tom Dean, I reckon, can go faster as well. It's very exciting. But, of course, then you throw in the Italians and you throw in the Americans, and it really does become very difficult to podium to start with, and then you've got to try and win gold after that as well. It's very exciting. That's one of the races to watch this summer, definitely.
You say Flynn Southam, you thought he was a 200 metres freestyle swimmer. Should we talk about that 2-3 then? Because I saw the story coming out of it, Kai Taylor, fascinating. The clip that they did of his parents while he won the race, brilliant. He won it in lane 8 and essentially only got to swim the final because Kyle Chalmers pulled out.
Yeah.
Brilliant story. But the winning time at a major country like Australia for 200 free to be a 146 kind of surprised me in a world where everyone is now swimming 144s.
Yeah, it's a weird one for them, isn't it? Because they've got outstanding 100-metre freestylers in Chalmers and Flynn Southam, as we just said. We've got Sam Short and Elijah Winnington going up in the distances. And then that middle ground of 200, they just don't quite have anyone, which is weird. Appears. Very strange, especially when obviously you've got a relay there in a 4x2. Australia really are nowhere. I mean, you've got 146s, which is okay, but are we thinking that because we are so good at it? We've got such a strong men's 200 free. Are we just saying, that 146s don't cut it anymore? You've got to go 144s and 5s.
Got to be careful.
British thinking.
Got to be careful here because we get labelled like the arrogant Brits, given that exactly, previously it was the arrogant Americans. But I think we're just spoilt for choice with how, like, the quality of depth that we have over here. And maybe it's just the fact that Kyle Chalmers is now focusing on the 100 free and 100 fly, and he's just changed up his schedule a little bit. Who knows what that's for? Might be for his shoulder health, but that might just be the way that it's gone, and they've said, look, this is the way that we're going right now.
He's always been stronger at 100.
Did Elijah Winnington swim the 2?
Yeah.
Oh, see, for him not to win that comfortably on a 146 is not great.
Yeah, it's not brilliant. But
no. Okay, should we end this kind of freestyle talk with Australian swimming on a positive front then? And you know how I love sprinting, and Cam McEvoy going a 21.2 in the heats of the 50 metres freestyle was nothing short of incredible.
Did you watch the race?
Yeah, it was near perfect. Absolutely perfect.
God, the breakout that he has at the moment after his underwaters, just awesome. He literally takes the field. He takes a half a body length at the field on the first 2-3 strokes. Amazing. I'd love to see if he can do it on the world level. But with the time of 21.2, there's a lot of people now saying that he's favourite for Paris. And you're thinking, well, hold on a minute. We're a year out from Paris. I can agree that, yes, he's probably favourite for world champs this year because, world champs are in a month's time. So, yes, I'd probably say, yes, he's fine, favourite for that. But when it's Paris, anything can happen over a 50, as everyone knows. Ben Proud's up there. You've got Manadou up there. Dressel could potentially come back. So you just don't know who's going to be favourite for that. But that was an outstanding swim, both in the heats and the final as well. 21.2 in the heats, then 21.4 in the final. That's good. I mean, I don't know the last time he went under 21.9 or even sub 22. When was the last time he did that?
He went 21.8 in 2016, which was the last time he went that fast. So that's
a long time
7
ago.
years ago. 7 years ago. In terms of him being favourite when it comes to major competitions, I think it's really hard to call a favourite for a 50-metre freestyle, because it is usually split by hundredths of a second, tenths of a second. It is the perfectionist race. You can't make a single mistake. And then you have people like Ben Proud, who did it 3 times in a row last summer, perfection, heats, final, gold. It's almost like he's practiced the pressure of winning 3 major titles, and he did it all last summer, and he goes into this summer knowing what that feels like. Cam McEvoy didn't swim a major meet last year. He doesn't quite know what that feels like, and there wasn't any pressure on him swimming fast at Aussie trials. But a 21.2, for me, wins worlds comfortably. I think that's very good.
I mean, the world record's 20.9, so he's 0.3 off it, which is not a million miles away based on that time. You're talking about pressure. I suppose I agree a little bit. Yeah, you have to go through the pressure cauldron a little bit, but maybe at the same time, because he hasn't been through that pressure, maybe he hasn't gone through the stresses in his body and he's a lot more relaxed because of it. I think you know, being a former sprinter, you do have to try your hardest, but at the same time you have to relax at the same time. So it's maybe he's more relaxed, and that's why the times are coming out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm overthinking this, and I'm just thinking like Ben Proud, Florent Mandu are battle hardened when it comes to 50 freestyle. But then again, Cam McEvoy isn't some newbie onto the international stage. He has been around for a very long time. So, I'm doing him some disservice there by saying he doesn't know how to handle the pressure. He could, you know what? Yeah, he's probably my favourite to win this summer now. Like, going off that swim.
I think you base it on times for the 50. The person who is the fastest going in usually is the favourite, I guess. But then it's a coin flip when the actual race happens. I mean, he's got a great chance of a medal. Apparently, I did a bit of research, and Australia have never won a medal in the men's 50-metre freestyle since the event came to the Olympics in 1988. So if he is going to go into favourite for Paris, yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? I find that mad. Yeah. Whether that's true or not, because I saw it on a tweet. So whether,
Oh, right, okay. So this is Twitter
whether that's
knowledge.
gospel or not. Yeah, so I don't know. But that's incredible. But that's for the Olympics, not for World Champs, mind you.
We'll fact check that, and if it stays in the podcast, it's correct. If you hear it, it's true. Okay, then, outside of those outstanding freestyle swims and Kaylee McKeown that we've talked about, who else impressed or maybe didn't impress?
Well, I kind of brought up Zach Stopperty-Cook already. I was expecting him to be running close to the world record, maybe not hitting it, but, your low 2.6s, something along those lines. So disappointment is a strong word, but I just thought he would do a little bit better. But at the same time, there's no one racing him. He's in a league of his own. But then you can say the same for Kaylee McKeown. She is, I think, about 8 seconds clear of the rest of the girls. It's insane. So yeah, I thought we'd get a little bit more from him. But ending on a positive note here, I think Brendan Smith probably should get a little bit of a shout out as well, qualifying. 4:10 for a 400 IM is solid. That's good going. Yeah,
for me, I kind of expected more fireworks from Cody Simpson. He's like the sexy name over in Australia, if you think about that, given the backstory of him coming into swimming and the fact that he's a pop star. He went a 52 point in the 100 fly. I kind of expected a little bit more, but potentially he's targeting just the Olympics is the bigger story for him. You never really know.
Maybe.
And yeah, I'm going to be like you, finishing on a high note. Deckers in the 200 meters butterfly, women's 200 meters butterfly. A 2:05 is very, very good. Like, don't let the swims of Regan Smith and Summer McIntosh overshadow how good a 2:05 is. That is a very good swim.
I think people get a little bit not messed up, but you know what I'm trying to say, because the world record is 2:01, and so people are so fixated on a 2:01. Like, if you're not close to that, then it's not a good swim. But actually, a 2:05 is impressive. I mean, we were happy that Laura Stevens went 2.6, sorry. So Deckers to go 2.5 is better, and so we have to say that's super impressive. Yeah, I agree.
Okay then, Dan. To end this podcast of which has been a British rundown, like if you're an Australian listening to us, two Poms talking about Australian swimming. But it's the right thing to do with the Ashes going on. We had to cover it.
Of course.
Who was your Australian swimmer of the meet then?
Well, I've nailed it down to 3 swimmers. It's either between Mollie O'Callaghan, Sam Short, or Kaylee McKeown. And I think out of those 3, it has to be Sam Short. He was just, I didn't expect it. I think that's what gets me. If I don't expect it, like, whoa, that was actually amazing. Both 4, 8, and 15, it kind of goes to him, I think. What about you?
In a meet where Kaylee McKeown went within half a second of her world records, and Mollie O'Callaghan beat Titmus and McKeon, that's one hell of a statement.
Oh, you really?
I'm going to go Kaylee McKeown. Just
based on times. The times were good.
Times, and she had absolutely zero, like you just said it, no competition. So that is time trial swimming, essentially. And she goes, a 2:03, 200 meters backstroke.
2:37. It's good, isn't it? It is good.
Like, if you get close to 2 world records and swim a very fast 200 IM at the start of the meet, it's a good meet.
Honestly, all three of the swimmers that I mentioned, to be fair, deserve swimmer of the meet. But I'm just picking Sam Short mainly because, again, I didn't expect it, and he's now. I think he's put notice on the men's distance freestyle, which, we do lots of videos. We talk about it. Your Bobby Finks, your Wellbrooks, your Paltrinaries, those guys, but we never really mention him. And I think now he's a name to add to that list. And so just imagine when the Olympics and the final 8 are coming out, anyone in any of those lanes can win. That's how exciting that event is. I'm still sticking with my guns, but I can see your point of either Mollie or Kaylee, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Sam Short either, let's be honest. So that just about rounds up this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And me and Dan will be back in 7 days' time.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.